Super Mario Maker 2 has currently added one additional game style, which is surprisingly enough Super Mario 3D World. Looking closer at the Mario Maker 2 Direct, we can see that this icon showing all the styles says extra game styles, which is plural, implying that we'll likely get more in the future. I've been thinking about which game Nintendo could use as DLC, and since Mario 3D World is technically a 3D title, we're given a lot more options now. So I've completed a tier list of what I think could be DLC, S tier being most likely and F tier least likely. We'll just go from the oldest to newest games, starting with Super Mario Bros. 2. This is one that I honestly thought they were going to add, but now I can kind of see why they wouldn't and why it's even less likely now. The key difference is that the only playable characters we know of are Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Toadette, while this game has Princess Peach. They would have to swap Toadette with Peach, which could work, but it'd be a bit strange to see her scrapped entirely. Another key feature to Mario Bros. 2 is each character has different abilities, like Peach could float and Toad could run fast, while all the characters in Mario Maker 2 function exactly the same. With that said though, they did take the different stats out for the Mario 3D World engine, so in that regard it wouldn't be that much of a stretch for them to do that here too. I've also seen the argument that the gameplay from this game is just too different for this to work. But 3D World isn't even a 2D game, and that one's included. A lot of the same elements that are in Mario games are also in this too. They wouldn't need to add that many extra things like themes, enemies, etc. So for this, I'm gonna put it at B tier. Next is Super Mario Land, and honestly, I think this has a really good chance of making it in. I'm gonna put it at S tier. This is one of those cherished but forgotten Mario games that I think has a lot of cool elements that could be brought to the spotlight. For starters, you can drive a freaking plane and submarine, which in a way kind of pairs with the driving in Mario 3D World. Plus the fireballs work very differently, seeing as they bounce all over the place instead of just on the ground. And the art style and physics engine is different enough to warrant it its own art style. The music in Mario Land is fantastic too, so I'd love to hear similar sounding pieces with any new themes that would need to be added. Mario Land also has different bosses, and even though they were really easy before, it'd be neat to see a few of them thrown in as a replacement for Boom Boom, Bowser Jr., and Bowser. But what also seems pretty likely is its successor, Super Mario Land 2. While it looks and plays similarly to Super Mario World, the game still has its own unique flavor. The levels are held in really dynamic areas like Tree Zone, Space Zone, Macro Zone, and even Mario Zone where you go inside Mario's crotch. Plus there's the bunny power-up which lets Mario float for as long as you can mash A, which is kinda similar to the Tanuki Leaf, but it also isn't at the same time. The zones all have really neat elements to them, like the Tree Zone has this sticky sap that you have to kind of crawl through. Plus the enemies in this game are so ridiculous looking. It would be fantastic to see a bunch of variety in that department. I'd be down with Nintendo including either Mario Land 1 or 2. Both would be a treat. I guess I should also place Super Mario AllStars somewhere, even though it wouldn't really make sense considering this game is just remakes of the classics. I'll put it in D tier just because the sprite work and music is different, but this one is extremely unlikely to happen. I also don't see much of a chance for Yoshi's Island either. It barely counts as a Mario game since you play as Yoshi, but the game is still a classic with Mario Bros. 1, 3, and World, so for that reason alone, I'll put it in D tier. Maybe the baby he carries around could be Baby Luigi, or Baby Toad/Toadette. The levels in that game are beautiful and have a lot of the same Mario Maker elements like the red coins and key doors. But like I said, I'm not getting my hopes up on it, even though this one would be pretty sick. Now we're dipping into the next generation of Mario with Super Mario 64, and I think this game style has a 50-50 chance. For one, Mario 64 is Mario's first 3D adventure, and if Mario Maker is celebrating all these different game styles, then it seems out of place for this not to be there. But I don't think there's that much of a desire to force Mario 64 into a 2D plane since its moves feel so nice because of the 3D. Wall jumps would be a pain since you have to time them just right, and moves like crawling or the slide kick wouldn't be very useful. But on the other hand, we have things like diving and long jumping, which would definitely be fun in 2D, and pair that with a wing cap, metal cap, and vanish cap, and you have yourself a compelling and different game style compared to the others. I'm just very split if I think this makes sense, so I'm putting it at C tier, but it's very close to B, honestly. So after that is Mario Sunshine, and frankly, I think this game has a better chance than Mario 64 just because of the Flood Pack. It would be a lot more work for the developers, sure, but imagine how drastically different Mario Sunshine levels would feel from the others. It would be so cool. Mario Sunshine is another game that also has a ton of new enemies that'd be fun to include with the others, and the art style still looks great to this day. This might seem ballsy, but Mario Sunshine is going in A tier just because of the mechanics, but not S, since the developers would need to create a lot of new background themes and music, which would definitely be a lot of work. I might as well bring up New Super Mario Bros. DS, Wii, and 2 just to throw those suckers into F tier. I made a really dumb joke on Twitter about all these games being their own game styles, but obviously they play almost the same as Mario Bros. U, so this won't happen. I wouldn't mind seeing power-ups like the Koopa Shell or the Mega Mushroom getting added, but nothing beyond the power-ups. Next, we have Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Now, this is one that I personally wouldn't really want to see get implemented, but I could definitely see it happening. Mario loses some of his older moves in Mario Galaxy, but he also grants a spin jump and can climb up the edges of walls quicker. On top of that, it'd be kinda nice to be able to play with the gravity and use things like pull stars and star bits. We did see a couple of levels that played in 2D in Mario Galaxy 2, so this really isn't out of the question. It'd be even better if we got a bunch of the power-ups like the Bee Mushroom, Cloud Flower, Spring Mushroom, and things like that. So I'm gonna put both of the Galaxy titles in A tier since there's lots of new and interesting elements and a huge bevy of themes they can use from the get-go. I know Super Mario 3D Land won't happen because of 3D World, but once again, I may as well play it on the list where it belongs, right in the F. There's pretty much nothing I'd even want to see get brought over from 3D Land because almost all of those features are already in 3D World. And finally, we have Super Mario Odyssey, and I gotta be honest, this has to go in the B tier. That's simply because I don't think Nintendo is quite done with Odyssey. A sequel to the game is pretty likely, or at least there's gonna be some form of DLC. And because of that, it would be a strange conflict of interest for them to include such a new game style into a level editor, considering the developers are probably still coming up with brand new ideas. But I could be wrong, and Nintendo will just let us make 2D levels and transform into all the characters our hearts desire. And honestly, it would make for some really dynamic levels. I can already envision a brick wall blocking your path as an example, and you have to transform into the tank to shoot it down or something along the lines of that. Now I've decided we should probably bring up Paper Mario since Super Paper Mario is a thing. This series of games are obviously not your standard platformer, but a lot of the art and assets would fit right into Mario Maker 2. Plus, using the hammer as a more standard move could be a lot of fun, and I'd love to play as Paper Luigi and the Paper Toads as well. There's already plenty of themes and enemies, so the devs wouldn't need to create that many new assets for this to work. If Nintendo wants to surprise us, they'll pull this game out as DLC, but I don't think it stands much of a chance, which is why I'm putting it in C tier. But this is just my tier list and what I think is most likely to come out as DLC for Mario Maker 2. There's a lot of split opinions on this subject, so I'd love to know what you think could make it as DLC in the comments down below. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time.